Yes.
Severino.
Here.
Here.
Here. Rise to salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Debbie, would you read the agenda, please?
Under administrative matters, we have payment of vouchers and extension of time, sorry about one of my agenda, which is 2012-207, Middletown. And administrative matters, we also have 2016-206, Middletown. All business, 2015.
Can you not hear her?
No.
Old business 2015-206, Village 35, 2017-200, Benny Equities, and there is no new business this evening.
Okay, I need a motion for approval of the minutes of August 2nd, 2017.
So moved for approval.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Debbie, we have resolutions. Two, I believe.
First one is 2017-102, Fritz, as an approval for minor subdivision lot line adjustment. Have a motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Davis? Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
And Mr. Severino?
Yes.
The second one is 2017-100, Thomas Organization, as an approval for the two lot minor subdivision. Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Davis? Yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
And Mr. Severino?
Yes.
It was a resolution, I think we have been, the American properties, Oxley property, we've been the board of the sewer line. So I think there's a resolution we've got the paperwork authorizing me to defend that matter. So if the board, if you don't want to go down, we can do it later.
Any motion?
Motion and second.
Another motion?
Roll call.
Mr. Calvin? Davis? Davis? Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Ivory?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Severino?
Yes.
Just for a possibility that might be remanded. And because there might be conflicts as well within Monmouth County limits, and if it goes beyond, it may be sent to the county. Either Mr. White Blockers here, we talked, so I think I'll be able to report back in over so as to what the status of that is.
Okay. This is a open public meeting. Is there anything not on the agenda that the public would like to bring before us this evening? Seeing nothing. All right, that brings us to administrative matters, payment of vouchers. Carl.
I reviewed the vouchers for the following. For today's date, September 13, 2017. James Foreman, $1,000. Tina and Associates, $13,419.60. And total for vouchers for planning board, $2,296.50. Total for professionals for this month, ending September 13, $16,716.10. Make a motion for approval.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, that brings us to extension of time for American Properties.
Brian Blockers.
Yeah, I am here.
He's here to observe.
Yeah.
I've spoken with Mr. Blocker. The request that came in from his partners, Mr. Shenanigans, was for a 3-year extension of time. They've been delayed for various reasons, not including without limited to litigation concerning ownership or rights to use land. So the way I read the land use law, it's you can grant 3 1-year extensions. They asked for 2 years in the past. I don't think that's really authorized by the MLU. I'd be looking for 1-year extension time. The Permanent Extension Act extended all of these applications out through June 30 of this year. So the 1-year extension time would be to June 30 of 2018.
That would be acceptable.
I'll make a motion to accept the MLUL extension for 1 year.
Second.
Mr. Cameron.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Crabtree.
Yes.
Sedano.
Yes.
Stevens. Yes. And Mr. Wood.
Yes. Okay, that brings us to 2016-206, Mark Middletown.
Mr. Chairman, John Russell, Chairman of Middletown. A few weeks ago, we come before the board for approval of the CDS located along Route 35. The board granted that approval. However, what we omitted was that there is a mezzanine within the proposed new building. It was on the architectural plans. It was not presented fully to the board. That mezzanine consists of 1,957 square feet. It was filed with the plans as sheet 01 from Larson Design Group. However, as I said, we did not bring it before the board. That mezzanine is to be used for storage and merchandise. And under the municipal ordinances, there is a off-street parking in section 54627 provides that parking for retail should be based on gross floor area. The section for gross floor area defines cellar, garage, crawl space, unfinished attic, or space of any nature accessory building shall not be included. And it does not meet the height of the minimum height of the building code, which are 2 criteria. I have with me this evening Keith Cahill, project engineer, who can testify to these circumstances. However, what I would suggest, it doesn't change any of the footprints or setbacks. This is within the building. It's a mezzanine to be used for storage, and it was just omitted from our presentation, even though it was on the architectural plans. So, with your permission, I'll ask Mr. Cahill to be sworn, and we'll present testimony to that.
1 second. John?
Yes, sir.
So this is really the nature of a continued public hearing, just to make an amendment to what was already approved.
We did try to provide you notice, Mr. Wood.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it. I don't see it. But, so Mr. Junko certified that they provided you notice and published in time, so that the board would have jurisdiction here this morning. This is here. Yeah. I had prepared a resolution in advance for the board in anticipation of the events tonight, but the numbers in there are not correct. So my suggestion to the board is just, we hear from this from the witness, we'll do the resolution to get it right, put it on the agenda next time, to memorialize whatever decision the board makes tonight.
GPS signal lost.
So I'm going to look through the publication and the service. That's where the witness and
I do.
and your name is Keith Cahill?
Keith Cahill, C-A-H-I-L-L, from Bowler Engineering.
Just briefly, Paul?
Sure.
Mr. Cahill, are you a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
Could you give the board your education and training and length of time of service?
I'm principal of Bowler Engineering, been practicing civil engineering for approximately 24 years. I've been a bowler for 20 years, licensed PE in the state of New Jersey, testified throughout the state in excess of $160,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keith, can you describe to the board the mezzanine and where it's located and describe the plans that it was on?
Certainly. Very briefly, the internal to the existing building and the proposed building that was approved, there is a mezzanine that is essentially a clear space above the finished floor where the customers look to access In the area in the back house where it's only accessible by employees, they have this mezzanine. It's approximately 1,957 square feet.
Keith, just to clarify, this is not open to the public.
Correct. It's only in the area where employees are allowed, and it's for storage of dry goods. The space is essentially attic space. It's approximately 6 foot 10 inches. So in accordance with your definition, it's not accessible space or utilized space in terms of that. So with regards to that, it does not impact the demand for parking or anything to that nature. And we just wanted to make sure that was on the record clearly. It was on the plans previously. The architect had that on the plans. It was not testified to. I want to point out that the plan that was submitted originally with the application had a smaller number of 1,700. When they advanced the plans over the last month and a half, it's 1,957 square feet. That's the square footage. So I want to make sure that that's clear. In addition, the square footage of the building, again, has not changed in terms of the footprint of the site plan, the setbacks, everything on that plan is exactly where it was before, no impact to anything shown. However, the number the architect had indicated for the square footage had listed as 13,196. I want to clarify for the record, it's 13,567. We gave an internal footprint number, it's internal rather than an external footprint. Sure, 13,567 square feet. On the plans that were submitted, those numbers were clarified on the resubmission. We just want to make sure the resolution would be
That's the footprint.
That's the footprint. Again, what was shown on the plan has not changed. It's essentially a typo. That number does impact requirement for parking, where previously 106 was required, 108 is required, the table has been updated. We are providing 113. There's no impact to the plan, no impact in terms of what was requested and granted in terms of variances and waivers.
My question.
Yes.
Are your storage areas that strictly for storage? Are you going to put any bathrooms, offices, employee rest areas up there?
No.
You also have fire sprinklers in that area too?
Correct.
Okay.
I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from the board? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one, I move to close the public portion. First, I need a second. I'll close the poll.
Second.
Favor? Okay.
I guess. I think in order to vote on this, you would have been able to vote on the earlier one plus this one. So that whittles it down a little bit, I'm not sure.
So, Mr. Cowder, Mr. Davis, Mr. Heidel, Mr. Perry, Mr. Grafton, Mrs. Sheehy, Mr. Wilton, are all votes. We need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Wait, I'm sorry.
You made a motion?
Mr. Wilk?
I'll second.
Oh,
Mr. Cowder?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Heidel?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Grafton?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheehy?
Yes.
And Mr. Wilton?
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to old business. We've got two applications here, Village 35, first up, and the Zuni Equities is second up. Mark, I'm giving you time. Okay, because I got
Mark,
to
hold
the
down.
other one up, so.
Good evening. We are focusing tonight on a two-lot subdivision plan that has been filed with the board, Mr. Chairman. We have two witnesses this evening. We have provided the notice. It's in order.
I reviewed the notice and the updated publication of the service in order. So the applicant has re-noticed for this meeting. The last time they were here was in July, it's carried to this night. They re-noticed again because they submitted revised plans for this two-lot subdivision.
Call Mr. Phillips, please.
Where we left off last time was Mr. Fittleman was being cross-examined. And now we're starting something else different.
We want to push the ball down the field, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the subdivision this evening, and hopefully get to a vote on that component. That's all.
I'm sure you have something to add to this.
Well, I think we commented before.
Sure.
I did it on the way up front. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Paul Castro. I earlier,
We didn't pick up your voice.
picked it up now.
You know, you're doing fine now.
Okay.
I'm just saying, let's reintroduce yourself.
I understand.
For the record.
Okay. My name is Rod Yezerowski. I'm an attorney in Red Bank, New Jersey. I earlier entered my appearance on behalf of a group known as Mining Middletown. And I would just make a brief comment prior to starting this hearing. It's my understanding that the only thing that will be before the board this evening is the issue with regard to this major subdivision. And however long that takes, when I spoke to Mr. Malakashin, my understanding is that we will not pick up where we left off at the last hearing, but the matter will conclude upon this subdivision matter being resolved. That's my understanding. And I'm going to raise my objection to the subdivision and be very, very brief. Number one, I don't believe that at the present time this board has jurisdiction to hear an application for a subdivision as concerns the residential property. If you recall, and this goes back several years, there was a point in time when both the general development plan, when it was approved, that was on behalf of both the residential site as well as the commercial site. Applications were filed for both of those, but along the way, in December of 2016, the residential component withdrew their application. So right now, Toll Brothers and the residential site is not before this board, and because they are not a part of this subdivision application, I would submit to the board that the board does not have jurisdiction to hear this application because Toll Brothers, the attorney, is not here. Secondly, my underlying argument has been that the applicant really cannot have it both ways with regard to this application. He wants the benefit of the general development plan, which has a requirement of 100 acres. And he's here before you this evening looking to subdivide this property so that when he comes back and when the Toll Brothers, if in fact they file a new application, they will not have 100 acres. They'll be far less than that, and I would submit that this does not comport with the general development plan. But more importantly, I read the PD zone, and I would refer you to section C-7. And I'd like to just read it because I think it's very pertinent to this case. It sets forth all of the standards for the zone, and then it goes on to say, after approval, parentheses, including general development plan approval, preliminary site plan approval, and/or final site plan approval, in parentheses, it shall be permissible to sell individual portions of the project, parentheses, and obtain subdivision approval if necessary, in parentheses, so long as all portions of the project shall remain consistent and in conformance with the general development plan. such subdivision and sale shall not add additional requirements to the project that were not present prior to the proposal to subdivide and sell a portion of the project. Now, I don't really care about who owns the property and or the like. But what I'm saying is there's a reason why I would submit to you respectfully that the governing body put that in there. So that is because once you granted this general development plan, it was predicated upon there being over 100 acres. The applicant is now before you just solely with regard to the commercial part of the plan itself. Toll Brothers has withdrawn its application. So at this particular point in time, we don't know if Toll Brothers is coming back. We don't know if, in fact, it will be the identical plan that the planning board considered with regard to the general development plan. In addition to that, there are overlapping site improvements on this property. For example, you're going to connect a connector road on the commercial part of this property, which is going to impact the balance of the track. Now, of course, they're looking to subdivide off that track. You're going to have, as I recall their plans, they're going to put a portion of their detention, they're going to put a detention basin, I forget the number of it, on the residential track, which is now being subdivided off. So I really think there's multiple questions which have to be answered concerning this, and you will only have control of this overall project unless, number one, you maintain the integrity of the entire track, and that if, in fact, after that is accomplished, the applicant comes in seeking this subdivision, and obviously it's something which should be properly before you, but I would urge that it's not properly before you this evening.
We do comply with Section 7, Mr. Chairman. That is our position. It's clear. We'd like to proceed.
Well, how is it clear?
It contemplates subdivision, and that's why we're here. There's no prescription against subdivision.
I agree. Look, I'll let Mr. Brooke respond to it, and obviously, using the process. Let me offer my opinion on it. There's a concept known as financial subdivision. That is that sometimes ad sites, stores, whatever, in a shopping center, for their own purposes, want to have their own property, their own lot, pay their own taxes, have their own mortgage. And in my opinion, that's what paragraph 7 is. After this is all approved, if, for example, that ad site, that store, that whatever, says, we want to have our own separate lot and block, we're going to build it ourselves, we're going to own it ourselves, and we're going to finance it, that gives them the ability to do that. It's not uncommon. You have a fair amount of that goes on, and many ordinances provide for a lesser standard, or actually no standard for financial subdivision. You never know it if you drove down and looked at the shopping center. It's all acting as one, but if you look someplace on the lot line, you're going to start seeing these separate lots in that subdivision. Not uncommon. In my opinion, that's what that paragraph is for. Because it's talking about after approvals. It doesn't say you can't subdivide before approvals. This contemplating after it's all done as like a perfunctory matter, they can come in and divide up the property for that. Now, I mean, that's my opinion. I think it's fairly clear. I don't know whether or not elsewhere within the ordinance we also deal with financial subdivisions, but that's not an unusual concept. So that's what I think that is. I don't think it's all that clear. I understand Mr. Gazarovski's position, but I think that subparagraph that he's citing refers to and deals with after the fact financial subdivisions. Yes, but not before the fact.
There's no prescription that you can point to that says we cannot subdivide.
Look, you can subdivide, but then you're not entitled to the benefit of the general development plan, which is predicated upon your having over 100 acres.
What's the basis and law for that? I don't see it, Mr. Miller. So that's our position.
I think, guys, it's easy to say that's our position, or to make the argument, no one's citing anything, no one's got cases, no one provided anything. So just to say that's what it is, that it may be, but it may not be. So here's where I see it. The applicant's asking for this, for whatever reasons they haven't really gone into it, but for whatever reasons they're asking for this subdivision. Whatever flows from that that means when they come back for site plan approval, Mr. Gazarovski says, uh-oh, you made a mistake before, you can't do this now, something happened, it had consequences. Maybe it does. But we're not there at that point to make that decision about what happens in the future.
I think on page 2 of the GDP resolution, it contemplates just this, Mr. Gorman.
Because you're like,
Page 2 of the actual GDP resolution. The planning board is considering only the GDP application at this time and will consider at a later date application for subdivision site plan approvals for the development, for the commercial component, residential component. It's at a later date now. It's expressly contemplated.
You had that opportunity at the very beginning of this entire process. Yes, you did. No. You chose not to subdivide prior to filing the application itself. Now you're in effect asking us to do a preliminary approval, in effect, of a subdivision, and we have not seen the site plan.
We filed the subdivision application in the first instance, and we noticed for it at the beginning of this proceeding, not just recently. It's not a new notice.
that's not correct.
Well, our notice always contemplated subdivisions.
The application that was filed a couple weeks ago is for a 2-lot subdivision, not involving the properties out on the highway, not touching any other contiguous or adjacent pieces. You're saying that that same plan was submitted to the initial set?
I didn't say that same plan, that subdivision was contemplated. I didn't say the same plan.
So the subdivision plan, as best as I can recall, that was submitted, this has got a long history. I may not be getting these exactly right, but the subdivision plan that was submitted also, if the board will recall, also talked about the smaller remnant pieces near the Wells Fargo, near the sleep shop, near the Bassett, and all those were part of the subdivision plan that was last before the board, and I believe that that was, Sam, Tom, whatever, you can chime in, but that was the plan that was submitted with this set of site plan. I mean, maybe there's small changes made, but had other peripheral stuff rather than just drawing a line from Kane's Lane to Kane's Highway.
I mean, a comment, please.
So that plan that we're talking about now, the applicant was taking for to, again, they submitted it on time, they review letters in, they noticed for it, complies with all the NW requirements, and is now before the board. It wasn't before the board before, whatever, the end of August.
That's a fair statement.
Okay, one brief comment. You know, when you look at this plan, and I'm not commenting upon the overall engineering and all the like, but what is clear is that some of the requirements of the zoning as the open space, drainage, access or whatnot, they are dependent upon other for compliance with that. For example, they're going to take one of their basins right now, and as a part of their approvals for the commercial site, place that basin on the other site. So in order for them to satisfy some of these requirements, they're requiring the use of both of those parcels. If in fact the subdivision is granted, you'll then have a remaining commercial site which is not in fact compliant with the requirements of the zone. That's my position.
We'd like to proceed. We'd like to proceed with our first witness.
I think there's a question on the floor, the board has to, make a decision about, who's got to ask the reason objection, I think it's got to be resolved.
Understood.
So we can't just say we're going forward, that presumes the court's the answer. I don't know.
Maybe you could explain why all of a sudden you want to do the subdivision.
Redevelopment is underway, as you know. It's being contemplated for this parcel.
No, I don't.
Well, resolutions have been passed by the town, contemplating redevelopment in this town. So we'd like to push the ball down the field and get the subdivision out of the way, pending resolution of that process.
I don't understand. that.
Excuse me, the redevelopment is not only specific to that site.
Understood, but there's redevelopment contemplated for this site, among others.
But the board has not been we haven't heard any discussions on that from the township committee. We're totally in quote, in the dark on that.
Yeah.
As there's no document sent to us, nor is there any spoken word sent to us.
There are resolutions that have been passed very recently. Mr. Gorman, you're aware of the conversation.
It's not a public record. The governing body has put out RFPs, and for planners to do the development studies for the township, and 3 firms were selected. I mean, Mr. Green was correct. I don't think that the RFP identified specifically this property or any other property. It was in general that it was an earlier version of the RFP that was taken down.
Correct. The earlier version of the RFP identified this site, then the SGM site, and the Sears site, and that was taken down. And there was an RFP for redevelopment, full of planners, redevelopment planners, which they made a selection this past meeting, and 3 firms were retained.
To do what?
No, as just redevelopment planners for
So you
various
hire,
projects.
so the township has hired redevelopment.
Can we use some microphones, please?
I'm sorry. The township has hired redevelopment planners with no job specific for them.
No, it's a pool of planners, and they will be full of planners, and as projects come up, they will be assigned on a case-by-case basis. And as Mr. Gorman said, there was a redevelopment resolution to redevelopment resolution to undertake the investigation for the Mountain Hill site, the SGM site, as well as Sears. And I think there was another resolution passed last month for, I believe, the Chapel Hill site. So,
I'm a little confused, Sam. We have a pool of redevelopment planners, and do they have a specific assignment to study this property right here, right now?
right now there has been no decision made as to which planning firm will be selected, but based upon the resolution that was adopted, there will be proposals sent to the 3 planning firms, and the most competitive one will be selected. But that process hasn't been undertaken as of today.
But this property is under consideration as one of the properties that the planners will be looking at, Mr. Chairman. That's in the resolution.
That's correct.
So there's a resolution to that end. They will be looking at this property, including...
But there is nothing actually going on.
They're investigating that. It's just occurring just very recently, Mr. Chairman.
And you want to change course based on that? Why?
It could take some time for those ordinances to be put in place. It could take months. So we want to get the subdivision aspect component.
But any ordinances currently in place for your application stand for your application no matter what they do. So I'm still looking for an answer as to why.
It could be tailored to this project, for example. The ordinance could make more sense. There could be objections to that whole process, as we see with Mr. Gazarovski. I believe we'll object to that component as well. Subdivision is the easiest, in our view, component of this application. It's conforming without variances. That's a great reason to push this forward. We've been here many, many nights. That's why we're here. Time to get approval.
Well, in all fairness, Mr. Castro, it's really your comment about how clear it is. It's not really clear to me. And the real problem is that this is part of an overall plan pursuant to a general development plan. And I agree with Mr. Gorman that subsequent to receiving preliminary and final site plan approval as you do in fact have the issue with regard to financial subdivisions. But that's when everything is in place. That's when all the considerations and concerns of the planning board have been satisfied. So now, if in fact this subdivision were to be granted, how are we going to deal with the detention basin on the residential site if it's not built? How are we going to deal with the issue of the connector road if the residential site is not built? How are you going to deal with this whole project if in fact the residential site itself is never built? You'll have a vacant parcel of land where the residential site was, and then you'll have this commercial site not satisfying the terms and conditions of the earlier general development plan that was passed. I mean, and I'm not, you know, I mean, I'm looking at this in a kind of nuts and bolts situation. Why are you putting here, you know, the cart before the horse? Let them get all their approvals. I think that my own personal opinion is that the two applications should not have been separated, but they were. But now, what he's further looking to do is not only have the applications separated as far as the approval process, but he's looking to eliminate completely any controls that you have over this particular commercial site in the overall project itself. And I would just simply simply put, it's not appropriate.
Mr. Gorman, why is Section 7 vague in your view? We are perplexed as to why Section 7 is not crystal clear that you can sell off lots actually after GDP approval. It says that when we read it slowly, we don't.
You don't read it slowly.
No, but it's, as you said, it could be confusing and there could be multiple parts to the parent. We believe it's crystal clear. We can sell off lots and subdivide after GDP.
I'll read it. It says including, after approval, including general development plan approval, which you have for the entire site, preliminary site plan approval, and/or final site plan approval. You don't have that for either of these two
It
projects.
says including GDP.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make one comment? None of us up here have a copy of the GDP.
What was that?
None of us up here have a copy of the GDP. So we're just listening to this and nothing to reference off of.
It's actually, that particular paragraph is actually in the ordinance for the plan development zone. I have one copy of it. Happy to send it up there.
So what Mr. Pollock was saying is, after approval, which includes GDP approval, the applicant is permissible to sell individual portions of the project, so long as all portions of the project remain consistent. You're saying they have GDP, and therefore they can do that now.
And it says and/or. It's very clear to us.
What does it say and/or?
It says it right here. And/or final site plan approval.
It doesn't say that. I mean, we must have different copies.
We have the correct.
Mine says after approval, including general development plan approval, preliminary site plan approval, and/or final site. The and/or is between the preliminary site plan approval and the final site plan approval. It's not before.
No.
It's not before preliminary.
So
It's not before, it's in the middle of. So it refers to, you have to have a GDP, and then you can have either of the other.
You have to have the GDP and the preliminary approval and/or the final approval. And there's a reason for that, because when you get a preliminary approval, the MLUL says the site has to be fully engineered. I mean, clearly, the site is not yet really.
we just don't read them.
This is true. Somebody said it's apples, bananas, and/or oranges. It means anything.
Yes.
Right? So when it says GDP approval, comma, preliminary site plan approval, and/or final site plan approval, in my mind, that means anything. You know, picture. I mean, if they have GDP approval.
With all due respect, that's arguably the other way in court.
By the way, your copy does say and/or as well.
Just admit that.
Yeah. So I'll make sure it's in.
No, it's just so we're clear.
also have, well, this says if you have general and preliminary, and or final site plan. So you've got to have general development plus the preliminary and or final.
I think it's a matter of just basic seventh grade English. If it is apples, bananas, or oranges, it's any of them. The and or, probably, in my opinion, none would have slapped me for that. But it says and means something, this and this. But or is clear. Or is one, the A, B, or C. And they do have, in my opinion, they have A. They have general development plan approval.
Don't take this comment the wrong way, and I don't wish to insult anybody, but I'm of course going back a long way. Now I know my father sent me to public school.
I wasn't
Seventh grade.
May we proceed, Mr. Gordon?
I mean, so the jurisdictional question is on the floor right now. Do they have the right to proceed now asking for subdivision? That's the question.
Well, then that is the question. It's not your property.
I'm sorry?
It's not your property. You don't own.
We are under contract to purchase the property.
You're under contract.
Sure, we have standing, as Mr. Gorman will, I'm sure, agree, we have standing in the subdivision.
And there's contract purchase.
Village 35 does not have a contract for the residential piece, Toll Brothers does.
I'm sorry?
Village 35, as I understand it, does not have a contract
We have
for
consent
the
of the owner.
residential, they have it only for the commercial.
We have the consent of the owner of the subdivision.
Yeah, by the way, it's a decision you've got to make. Create an issue fund.
It's a non-issue.
I have a question. The stormwater basin, accordingly, is going to be used for commercial use. However, in your responses to the Environmental Commission pertaining to the stormwater basin, you say it's going to be shared by the possible housing area, and that they will make it large. They could make it larger. I refer to your comment number 2G on the environmental letter. So is that basin part of their property? If they, what they're doing now, is that basin, or is it simply part of the property that's going to be used for the homes?
For the purposes of the two-lot subdivision, none of those improvements exist or are contemplated.
And then it has to be all replanted.
Well, I didn't say that. I'm just saying
It
that.
will be addressed as site plan.
Yeah, it would be addressed as
To your satisfaction.
So.
We wrestled through a lot of stuff on this application for a long time. Toll Brothers withdrew, but the understanding is they'll be back. Whether they are or not, they don't know, but they will. We separated the two applications so that we could deal with traffic, road improvements, the connector road, stormwater management, etc. Right now, this board has control over all those issues. Meaning you've got to satisfy you, and then Toll Brothers has to satisfy this board. If we grant this subdivision at this point in the middle of the application, what happens to all of those controls?
You impose conditions subject to site plan approval, Mr. Chairman. You can impose reasonable conditions in the subdivision resolution that would be prophylactic to that end so that you remain in control of the actual site plan that's effectuated. Frankly, it's not all the time, and I understand the concern. Conditions in the resolution would be the way to go.
If that's so, and you make it subject to conditions, that means then that they can't begin construction on the commercial site until after they get preliminary and final site plan approval. For the residential site, what's the purpose?
No, it's not. They stand on their own.
You can't,
How do you meet the conditions if they stand on the road?
what?
How do you meet the conditions if they stand on the road?
Depends on the condition. We will, at site plan approval, this board has the power to
Give me
impose
an example.
reasonable access, reasonable emergency access between the properties, drainage, the things that we've been talking about for the last 4 or 5 hearings in site plan.
Mr. Secretary, I think follow along that, how would you perfect a subdivision if those reasonable conditions were in place? No, Mr. Lee.
I'm sorry.
How would you perfect a subdivision? How would you go through resolution compliance? If the conditions that Mr. Severino asked about, if they're in the resolution, how do you satisfy?
Well, that was the conditions that I guess I provide an example of.
Drainage, cross-access, emergency access. Those are reasonable conditions. They're gonna be subject to-
Drainage is a reasonable condition. I mean, that, our engineers.
Okay, subdivision resolution or site plan?
I mean, our engineers here, I'm sure drainage is not a.
Yeah, well, be subject to site plan approval. It's just, you can't build if they don't have site plan approval. Nor can, by the way, Toll Brothers build until they have site plan approval with those conditions satisfied for resolution compliance.
But then if the.
Section 7 contemplates just that.
But if there are conditions attached to this first resolution, how are they met if the second application hadn't been yet approved? How do you start with?
It depends on what the conditions
So
are.
that's why we're asking the question. See, you're.
I think that's part of the horse, where we like to present this.
My point, that's my point, right, that's your point. You made my point for me.
Well, I haven't heard the proposed conditions yet.
You just gave me some examples and then you made my point, right? So the concern would be, although my X-ray vision and the ability for me to see beyond any approval, I don't know how good that is for me or for any of the board members, but that's what you would ask us to do based on conditions on the first approval, right?
I'm not sure I follow. So we'll have a site plan application hearing for the commercial and then for the residential. There'll be conditions, some will overlap and some will be set on their own.
Okay, so the commercial won't start construction if and until there's an approval for the residential?
No.
Then how do you meet the conditions on the first approval? That's my question. How do you meet, how would you begin construction if the conditions of the approval haven't been met because the second residential hasn't been heard and or approved?
It depends on the condition.
We're having a circular conversation.
I'm not trying to be evasive.
That's okay, but that's not good for you, right? So in order to be definitive and move forward, you need to have a definitive conversation, which is what we're not having at the moment. So unless you can advise me of potential conditions that are definitive in nature and that can stop and start, but that this board can understand that are satisfied, then I suspect you may be able to begin construction prior to potential approval of the residential application.
Okay, let's put it. What conditions are you proposing? We can say yes or no.
No idea. We're at the beginning of this.
That's my point. We're at the beginning of this. We haven't presented a witness yet. We're already talking about conditions of approval. When we get into the plans up there, is concerned, the board generally would raise an issue and say, let's condition upon A, B, or C. We would say then, yes, no, or maybe try to tweak it and work with your professionals on the condition. That's generally, as you know, that's the way it's generally done.
Right.
So we now have conditions before our first witness is even under the sentence.
Is there a question, Mr. Gorman, before the board, or do we have the ability to determine whether a subdivision can proceed or not?
The question I think Mr. Gasser asked me is jurisdictionally under the ordinance created in the zone, can they proceed now for a site?
And And,
I'm sorry. It's the timing of that. Is that correct?
Mr. Gorman, I think you agree that we're legally able to do that pursuant to the ordinance.
I just gave my advice.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to be clear.
And then, okay. Now, this, they voluntarily withdrew the residential application.
We did not. We did not.
Or whatever piece it may be, GDP was issued to two parties, Toll Brothers and Lewis 35. Toll Brothers had before you a plan. That plan has been removed from the table. I mean, nothing can be considered with regard to what was before you previously because it was withdrawn. So what you're really doing here, when you're voting perhaps on the site plan approval for the commercial, you're doing it on a weekend prayer with regard to balance. But, you know,
We are not at the site plan stage right now. No improvements are being proposed currently tonight. This is for a subdivision. We're drawing a line on the map. No improvements are proposed this evening. It's literally drawing a line on the map. We have to come before the board for numerous additional evenings, I'm sure, to work out all the details of the site plan and the actual improvements that are being contemplated.
But you realize that we've been doing this for several meetings, and you sit there. And you said that we've been sitting here, you've sat here for several days over the past 2 years. Solely. And we've listened, and the public has listened. And today we were supposed to start it out, and the public was supposed to be able to continue the cross-examination of your engineer, I think it was. I mean, we've been here too. It's not as if, you know, we're starting from scratch. This is in June of 2016. So it's not as if this is a one-sided ballgame and you're the only one sitting here and we're just, you know, here to kind of just wait for you guys. You know, this is a board and it's a big town with a lot of applications, and we need to keep them going as well. We dedicated a lot of meetings to this past year, 5 of them, and we met for 1. So I just want to point that out there that, you know, it's not just, you're not the only one who's practicing.
I think we have to consider, and we understand the volatility of where retail is right now. And I know you guys might want to make some major changes because of the volatility of retail. And I'm going to say, you're the buyer. Buyer beware. We can't extend the time that we've extended all of these weeks. So you change accordingly to the economy. Let's put it where I think it really is.
Mr. Chairman, when we arrive at the site plan stage, the GDP still controls, the ordinance controls, and the GDP is in place still controls. So, I don't know who's cited that. Those are, that's good for the board. We have a GDP that was approved by this board with parameters. We have to come to the board and say, here's the ordinance, here's the GDP. If we stray from that site plan stage, the board will say yes, no, or maybe, but could you change this?
Can I ask, how would the GDP be applicable upon the completion of the subdivision for the residential application for things that weren't met for the commercial application.
It would apply in total. The GDP doesn't go away. The provisions of the GDP remain in place. We can't ignore it.
Well, you're not answering my question.
I'm trying to. I swear I'm trying.
So if potentially a subdivision is granted and you proceed with the commercial application and that application is approved and there are remaining obligations from the GDP that now are on the remaining two parcels, how are they shifted to that other two parcels?
We can't control what the other parties did. That's your question. I can't control what Toll does, or other parties do, or if Toll opts not to develop. A third party, we can't control that.
That puts me as a board member in a tough spot.
Respectfully, that's a classic GDP stance. That's the way GDPs are. That's the way it is. We can't control that any more than you can control the opposite. So I understand the concern. We have an ordinance in place, and we have excellent professionals that have looked at this many, many times. And that's why you hire your professionals. And you can rely on those. You can reject their opinions, or you can take their opinions. Those are strong professionals.
If we go back, I don't think this much. If we went back and looked at the GDP, and I don't have it in front of me, I've got volumes and volumes of files on it. But the GDP contemplated that the applications would be heard, I think, sequentially, but that there would be conditions that would be imposed upon the entire property. So, for example, if the first property to be developed was the commercial, and they needed to have open space or drainage or roadway circulation on the back, that would be imposed on the back as a condition of the improvement or approval on the front, and vice versa. Those, I think what Mr. Polycaster was getting at, was those general type of conditions could also be put in the subdivision resolution so that you don't lose control over the common element, and the common issue. Drainage, open space, and circulation. And I asked the question before, and how would they satisfy those conditions? Would that be required before they perfected their subdivision? And after I asked the question out loud, I thought about it, and I think it can be done by basically restrictive covenants placed on the property as a condition of the subdivision approval, so that we still have control. So, if the board were inclined, and that's not what you have to do, if the board were inclined, I think that we could, it's not going to be easy, and I have to think about it for a while, but I think we could make sure that they don't separate, that you don't lose control on the important common issue. That's not to say you have to go ahead tonight with the subdivision application, but if you decide to do so, I think that you can take basically the same concept from the GDP and put it in a subdivision resolution to make sure that the board doesn't lose control. And I think the common issues before have been identified: open space, drainage, and circulation, traffic improvements are the ones that come to mind. There may be another one.
What show has a higher run?
We go back to where Mr. Gazarovski raised a jurisdictional issue. That's still on the table. That's where we haven't gone beyond that.
In your opinion, does the board have jurisdiction to consider this subject at this point?
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, you and I are reading that provision somewhat differently, so, I'm not going, we've been down there, and if that's the interpretation of the board, that's the interpretation.
Any comments from the board?
Are we saying that we can, if we have to add any addendums, let's talk to look at the basic, Basin 7. There has to be major changes to Basin 7. Costs, enlargement of Basin 7 if the home area gets filled up. Would that be put as an addendum that would have to be approved before anything else is approved? Or if we approve just the basic commercial sections, then we have to say anything that happens to that basin, they will incur the costs involved, what have you?
I think that level of detail would have to come with the site plan approvals. At this point in time, it would be a more general statement that whatever they do, they're going to have to comply. And there's going to be obligations imposed on both lots because of the common nature of this application of the developer. And I don't have the GDP in front of me, but I think that you have it.
Yes, I do. I have it here, and
Just, if you could, just read, if you could, one of the conditions or one of the paragraphs that says something about open space, drainage, or circulation.
okay. I just wanted to go back and read in the GDP on page 2. It says, whereas the planning board is considering only the GDP application at this time and will consider at a later date subsequent applications for subdivision and site plan approvals for the respective development of each of the commercial component and residential component by the appropriate applicants. So that's spelled out in the GDP. Now going down to conditions, bear with me, I'm looking at the electronic.
I mean, I don't, we don't have to go into that level of detail. I'm confident that that's what it says. It says there are conditions in there that basically say you can't just, you can't separate them one from the other. Those obligations remain. And that's all I'm saying. Conceptually, that would still remain after a subdivision.
That's correct, and I think I just reading it in a second, but it's clearly mentioned regarding the open space, what you just said, Jim, Mr. Chairman. I thought it was page 13, but it's not. About the open space.
I mean, I don't want to get too far down this side of the street. I'm confident that it's in there. I think that what was drafted will work to make sure that the board doesn't lose control over those important common issues that would basically join these two together as a common development.
Mr. Gorman, can't we, as a part of, if we were to make this, can't we, in whatever, however we memorialize that, can't we reiterate that point that both sides of this subdivision will then be, are still subject, remain subject to the GDP?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think we get, exactly, right. I agree. I understand it's a concern, it's a valid concern. I said, these are Siamese twins, and you separate them, you gotta make sure that they're both okay.
You yourself, Mr. Bringo brought up as well as others, so much of this depends on the site plan.
Acknowledge.
And I think that putting the subdivision now in the middle of your site plan application is wrong. So I'm going to make a motion.
I just have one. Go ahead. Is it within our jurisdiction? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I knew that we can listen. Just to clarify for myself, is there any reason we come up with another question, but unfortunately, are we able to grant the subdivision on the condition of the approval, potential approval of the site plan? Like this, yeah, if we say, okay, today we will move forward with the subdivision. However, that is subject to the approval of a site plan, of site plan approval.
No.
No, because they may never be developed. They may never be developed. I mean, we're going off on the world of hypotheticals here. But say, for example, the residential portion never gets developed. The commercial portion comes in and says, we want to develop. One of the things they may have to do is provide some control enough of the back piece to give the requisite open space, or drainage, or road improvements. And if they can't do that, because of whatever reasons may happen, then they're going to have to solve the problem on their own portion of the property. They might well reduce the amount of square footage they can build, or the road configuration, or something. But right now, they're saying it's one property. They have whatever contractual obligation between them. They're going to be able to control and have access to the back for the grant of open space, or necessary road improvements, or put a detention basin back there. If they don't want, they wind up, they have a fight amongst them all, they can't do that anymore, then they're going to have to solve it on the front. But, I mean, we're getting to hypotheticals that may or may not ever happen.
Well, I understand that, but just for our ability to understand, obviously we don't have that MOUL, memorized as well as councils on all sides do. But just for our own understanding, to know what all of our potential avenues that we can take. That's the only reason I bring up that question.
Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
I just want to clarify something. You mentioned that we could, through a resolution, give subdivision approval with conditions. Now, when you move down the road and you're doing site plans, and you need to change those conditions, then you do that. Because you need to change the conditions of that.
I think the GDP, along those same lines, the GDP says that you don't get site plan approval until you meet all these conditions. So if you had to change it to comply with the site plan, then they'd have to figure out the drainage, the common space, the open space, the circulation issues, I think.
Additional conditions may be imposed at site plan as well. You can add on to the conditions at site plan.
So there can be many different ways this can come up. By the time this actually gets to the site plan stage, let's just say DEP has different stormwater rates, requiring basins to be double the size. Well, they're going to have to figure that out. They've created 2 lots, and they're going to have to figure out how to solve their problem, either jointly or individually on each lot. The ordinance contemplated a joint development of the property.
Mr. Chairman, there's really a very simple solution to this, and that's simply that if we're coming before you with a parcel of land that is less than 100 acres, they are not entitled to the standards of the GDP, and they have to satisfy the standards of the PD zone with regard to open space and everything else on that side.
I don't think that's what the ordinance says.
Well, I didn't create this problem. I mean, frankly, we've got a citizens group that's been going out for...
But Council, now you're confusing the board. You're confusing the board by saying something and then...
I don't want to confuse you. If we're going to vote, I guess we have to vote.
Well, why don't you hear the witnesses, Mr. Chairman, respectively? Here are witnesses. We have the right to present the witnesses. I think the issue that you're struggling with is whether to adopt a resolution tonight. But we clearly have the authority.
We're wrestling with, do we even hear this tonight?
But we've presented subdivision testimony previous nights when we've noticed for it. So that's not.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did. We had our surveyor here as well. Mr. Kumar testified as to the subdivision. It's in the transcript. We absolutely have.
I'm going to go back to what I said originally. You have been proceeding along with site plan. You've got a site plan application before us. That's what you've done.
Respectfully disagree. We noticed for subdivision and site plan. We modified the plan, the subdivision plan was before the board.
You're asking me to believe that we weren't just doing site plan?
Absolutely, and I can you point to the transcript, we presented the subdivision testimony and said, that's all we have on the subdivision issue, Mr. Chairman of the board. We absolutely did that. And requested site plan information as well after that. It's the same thing this evening. We're also looking for a resolution on the 2-lot subdivision.
I've heard the arguments, and any other comments from the board before I make a motion? I'm going to make a motion that if we do not hear the subdivision plan, see.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call.
Don't forget, we're only gonna call nine.
Mrs. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
No.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Idle?
No.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Ashton?
Yes?
Mr. Severino?
No.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
And Mr. Woods?
No.
Right. 5-4. So the motion passed.
So, is there a date certain that this matter will be carried to, Mr. Chairman? We have notice for a slew of approvals, as Mr. Gorman is aware, an omnibus notice. So we would like this carried to a date certain. Anytime soon. There'll be an opportunity for special hearing.
Between now and would you be ready for our next meeting?
Absolutely. So October 4th at 6:30, without further notice.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One more thing. I don't know where we are on the extension, we need extension time. So at this point in time, obviously, October probably is going to finish the site plan. So in the applicant on the record granted the extension time, I would request it to be the January meeting of the board. I don't have that open.
We're going to extend to October 4th. And we'll follow.
That's not useful. I mean, let's be.
What's the next available?
It's just not good enough.
What's the next available hearing after the 4th? I first heard December.
There's a practical matter. We're not going to wrap up in 1 second. If we have to keep track of this week by week or month by month,
the next,
November 1st.
November 1st.
I'll leave nothing before that. I'd like it to be as much time as possible, being realistic under the circumstances, and not having to face the threat of political. I don't need it, having more gray hair here, Jenny getting gray hair. It's hard to keep track of these.
Two hearings from now. November 1 and 2 hearings.
I agree with Mr. Gorman, that's just not enough time. We need to hear from the public. I mean, this is not going to happen. You're asking a lot of us.
You could come here anyway.
Okay. I lose. January.
Thank you. All right, so it's carried to October 4th, no further notice, no further publication, and they've granted an extension of time through the January meeting, which will be the January 10th. So
What that means is October 4th, we're picking up where we left off at the last meeting, which was the public cross-examining, questioning Mr. Fiddleman, their engineer. So you know where it is.
when I stated what to say, what I said, hey, you guys are elaborating very much.
All right, I'll see you in a little bit.
thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Rick Brodsky and Stelter and Aaron, on behalf of the applicant, Divinity Equities LLC. This is a continuing hearing on this application. As the board may recall, with respect to the property located at 1287 Route 35, the site of the old state banana. We're here for preliminary and final site plan approval with variances for seeking approval to demolish that existing building, the old steak and ale building, and to construct a retail center, which includes a daycare center, an automotive repair, satellite Dunkin Donuts, and also some additional retail space. We started the hearing last 2 meetings ago, and since that time, based on feedback that was received from board members, as well as your professionals, revised plans were prepared and submitted and reviewed very quickly and efficiently by your professionals, and actually your professionals issued revised reports based on those revised plans. Which obviously were designed to address as many of the concerns as we could. So, unless the board has any questions or would like to proceed otherwise, I have with me John Hales, the project engineer, who was previously sworn and will just walk the board through the nature of the revised plans, and then I will have my traffic engineer testify to the board as well.
Okay, Mr. Palace, you're on the road, remain on the road.
Yes. Okay, John, if you would, as I indicated, if you could just walk the board through, we have to mark.
Not on the submission set, but if you're going to have different drawings, you know, colored, we're going to mark them when we see what we're up to. Like the last quotation was we were up to A3, so this would be A4.
That's right. And John, correct, just describe what you're marking as A4.
Yep. So this is a site plan rendering dated September 13, 2017. Colored version of the site plan with the landscape plan overlaying on top, which will be references the revised site plan drawings that were submitted to the township with the revision date of August 30, 2017. We had the opportunity to meet with your professionals. We were able to address the majority of their concerns. There's a couple of revisions to the plan set. We'll go through those. Talk about variances at that point. And then I think I can go through the review letters. I think those, that are items that need to be discussed. The majority of the items in the review letters are relative to the variances, which I'll hit as part of my direct. So on the plan changes, which you'll see, the first is we provided, as we indicated we would, sidewalk along Route 35. We provided wheel stops for the retail parking spaces on the west side of the property. We also increased that sidewalk to a width of 6 feet. The drive aisle that runs along the north and west side of the building has been increased to 20 feet to eliminate that variance. We provided curbing around the trash enclosure. We've relocated the sidewalks between the retail and learning experience so that they run in alignment across the front of the building. And we provided a stamped concrete crosswalk to delineate the pedestrian access between the two. We've added do not block box striping, essentially at the intersection. The traffic engineer will speak a little bit further about the outside circulation. We provided a fire hydrant at the request of the fire official, and that's closer to the retail stores. And then one last item, an item that actually popped up in the last review letter, I think it was the variance that we missed, was the freestanding sign setback. Your freestanding sign setback ordinance
Got it.
Great.
The requirement is 20.47 feet. So we would go to 16.75 feet. The alternative, which we can certainly do, is we would shift the monument sign to the east side, southeast side of the property and set it at 20.75 feet. Personally, I would like to keep it in that island closest to the driveway, as people always see for commercial uses. But if the 4-foot differential to slide it back, if it feels important, we can certainly slide it to the east, southeast side of the property. And then,
I'm sorry, I don't have a hell of a time figuring out where the sun actually is. I think we all are.
But they're all there.
I'm looking at your site plan drawing here, trying to equate it to there, which you got on the board.
Yes.
And you're putting the sign.
Right now, the sign is here. My recommendation, between the two alternatives, one is at like a 16.25 foot setback at that location, or we can put it at 20.75 feet at the east side of the property, southeast side of the property. We can do either. I can eliminate the variance by putting it here, or we leave it there and keep the variance. And we're fine.
And obviously that sign is for all the businesses in there.
That's correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask you a question? The loading zone, is that where the fire hydrant is?
No, I believe that the fire hydrant is located along the right of way.
Okay, can you point to it?
It's showing up on my record. So it's almost directly in front of the retail strip. So it would be on the northwest side of the property. Does that help?
Yes, does it need to stay there?
No. Good flexibility. If you have a cross back and certain shift it.
Okay, yeah, the trucks will be coming this way down the road, so they can hit the hydrant first and then pull into the complex. So it would make it ease of access instead of a reverse leg.
Well, we revised the plan for your fire request, fire department, so that the truck can wrap around. And I assumed that if it wrapped around, they wanted it in proximity to the retail building to drop here, but you have a request, as long as John, okay with that.
I'll work with John with that with you.
That's fine.
I think it would be best to be able to come in. I'm still worried about the stacking over by the Dunkin Donuts and stuff. We get the trucks around there and the delay, so I think I can rather that.
Okay, before the end. Absolutely.
Just have one more question.
Sure.
Looking at the beginning of the property, is there any way, you have 3 trees on your plan, not on mine, is there any way that we can get anything, a little more access in that area over there where maybe that first tree is? It's kind of tight. I'm just thinking in a situation where we have to bring some kind of, we only have 2 sides of that building we can work off of from a fire standpoint. I'm thinking if we can get another vehicle over that curb, I mean, it'd be nice to have an emergency driveway access there, right?
You're saying just kind of pull the tree away so that...
Yeah, so further away from the building.
We could do that, and instead of a full height curve, if you want a mountain curve, we could do that as well.
That would be great, and I can talk with John with you with that.
No problem.
Thank you.
All those trees or one tree?
Just the first tree.
So you're going to take it off the plan entirely?
No.
Or moving closer to the highway?
I'll probably shift it further to the east. But I got confused it, making things a little more confusing, so I added a tree over there, that's the best we plan.
I have to write this up,
So essentially what we will do is we will shift the trees on the east side of the building to allow access for a fire vehicle.
Cool.
That work?
Well, if
first one because
Yeah, the
we
first one.
we can't have a truck that close, just the first one.
So we should make it subject to John approval,
Okay.
if that works.
Yes.
Not to belabor it, you asked us to decide where we want to sign.
I did.
Okay.
I said I can move the sign.
Let's back up real quick.
Right.
You can put it on that, I'm looking at sheet 7, which is the landscape plan, which is somewhat what you've got there.
Yes.
Giving us, asking us would we like it on that landscape island,
Here?
right?
Yes.
Or over there,
Right.
in the empty space. It's a monument sign.
It is.
And how big is it?
It's
There's no, I couldn't find any sign detail.
50 square foot, it's compliant with the ordinance.
But that doesn't tell me how big the sign is.
50 square feet.
So you got a 5 by 10 roughly monument sign. The landscaping would then in fact move it into onto that landscape, I'll call it island. The landscaping goes away.
Landscape stays. Either way, landscape stays.
You got, that's why I was looking for sign details, that you got a 50 square foot sign, but how high up it goes?
Oh, yeah, 3 foot pedestal.
On a 3 foot pedestal.
Yes.
That entrance, right, it drops down, doesn't it? Doesn't it drop down when you go up the highway, doesn't it drop down a couple feet?
It does.
It does, about 2 to 3 feet, it drops down that entrance right now.
You know, I don't think, quite frankly, we have much choice about where the sign goes. I mean, if you move it out there into the Middletown, now you're battling with the restaurant next door.
Yeah.
It's blocking that sign. I mean, say you can leave it, put it there, and then it would be a great mistake on your part to put it there.
My preference is I just want to give the option to the board, because it would be a variance to leave it in the location of the current proposal.
You say you need a variance for the island
Setback, for the setback of the sign.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
My opinion is, I consider as a plan, I consider it a de minimis variance. It's 18.75, and they require 19.22 or 20. It's a foot and a half, a foot and a quarter. It's hardly anything, but it's just technical variance that needs to be granted.
I think Mr. Paul has revised the numbers slightly.
I did.
Oh.
Simply because it's like, I realize that it's a monument sign, not a pole sign, so it's on the ground.
So it's not 18.75.
So it was going to be 16.75, just to get a 2 foot overhang so a vehicle would hit it. That's the only reason.
So 16.75 according to your testimony, where 20.47 feet was.
Right.
Which is roughly 4 feet. Now it's
That's
25%.
And is the sign placement perpendicular to Route 35?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what I thought I was looking at. Could a change of angle get you out of that need for a variance?
It wouldn't be enough.
No.
And there was also, I assume this is double-sided.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, if you angle it.
Start to lose one side.
Now you lose the southbound side. Okay.
That's 3.5 feet. 4 feet.
It's 3.7 something.
Additionally, we revised our landscape plan. We changed all the species throughout the site. As you look at the plan from the prior testimony we were talking on the east side, but essentially from the prior plan, we added 8 shade trees. Your planner has requested one more along 35 and then another one on the south side of the building, which we will comply with to make sure that one on the south side of the building doesn't block fire or vehicle access. We added 11 ornamental trees throughout the islands, 4 evergreen trees, 50 deciduous shrubs, and 12 ground covers. And the one of the requests, our tree shows we have a 3-inch on the plan, we'll make it a 3-inch minimum for the trees with the request. Unless there's any other questions that I can run through.
I have a question about the trees. Looks like one of them is within the sanitary sewer easement.
It is, that will be shifted just to do the house.
So you're saying you will add the trees, correct?
That is correct.
So, should we go through the G&M report first, or
Basically, where you've been, it's the landscape.
yeah, I mean, I'm running over that, so where do you want to do that?
I know we eliminated 10 design waivers and variances. I can go through the ones that are remaining, although I think in my original correct, I covered the majority of them. We tried to.
Maybe, excuse me, may I interrupt? Did the board discuss the sign setback or did you come back to the board? I didn't have that in mind. Okay.
Let's discuss it, but we didn't comment.
Right, so that's something Jim will have to put in.
I have one question before we go off on the shrubbery and things. I think I spoke last time. Are you going to have a sprinkler system in there?
Irrigation.
You want irrigation, okay.
Do we want to discuss the sign? If that's
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the natural place is where we have it proposed, for in terms of visibility, moving onto the site and not conflicting with, you know, the restaurant on the adjacent property.
Can you point that out again, where it's going to be?
Sure. Where it currently is proposed?
Where it's proposed?
It's proposed right here on the south side of the driveway, southeast side.
And where it would have to go to comply, to push it back that additional 3.5 feet.
Can you point that again, please?
Sure. Which is the southeast corner adjacent to the row of 14 parking spaces in front of the learning experience.
Does that affect your curb jump that we were speaking about?
Oh, it's slightly. You'd still have a 20-foot depressed curb that you'd be able to do.
The problem there is when they see that sign, if it's all the way down there, they're going to look for, they'll see the sign and they're going to slow down. Where's the entrance? Where's the entrance? Where's the entrance? I would rather have it at the entrance and give them the variance on that.
Thank you.
Any additional items in the G&M report?
I don't think so. I think I tried to address them. There was, I think we eliminated for these kind of the landscaping interior to the parking area. We eliminated that variance, but I will provide that calculation. And then there's also a request for a calculation for another section pertaining to the amount of landscaping, which was just a It's actually a design waiver for 540-622A2C. Yard areas and open space of building shall contain 2 shrubs and 1 shade tree, ornamental tree for each 1,500 square foot of yard area, which we're requesting a design waiver, but I'll provide a calculation of the default. But when you start calculating the yard areas with the wetlands and the buffers to the north where we're not allowed to disturb, and then vegetated areas to the west, it just makes it very difficult to obtain that. But as I said, as I testified, we provided a substantial increase in landscaping over the existing site and also on top of the initial submission.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff. We're
There's
jumping
a whole bunch of stuff in Rob's letter. Rob usually ever part of the
Can we just,
continuing comment.
let's do it this way. Let's just address the letter in order on haven't been addressed, and let's get back to that landscaping, once we get to landscaping section, so I'm clear. If you want, I can provide guidance just to speed this up a little bit. So if we go to section B, number 3 on page 2, talks about driveway repair. It's not clear to me the limits of the driveway repair. There are some lines on the demolition plan, and I think they are also shown on the site plan that don't show it's completely repaired but partially. And it's in poor condition, so I want to make sure we're clear on what you're proposed to do.
We're putting in a brand new concrete apron. I thought that was the specific request, and then I'm curious if this would be new asphalt.
Okay, so there's a line that was my understanding.
That's a concrete apron is the line.
No, there's another line there that makes me believe you're partially improving the asphalt and not completely. I just want to be clear. So if you look at the demolition plan, that line also is on the site plan, which is a little bit more difficult to see.
That might be the site triangle.
It's not.
The line.
Look at demolition plan, sheet 3. See that line work that?
Yes.
So that transitions onto the site plan and confuses the limits of the group.
I'll make sure that is extended all the way to the structure.
We can jump all the way to section C, item 3, page 3. And again, this is a design waiver we're still requesting.
Yes.
Okay. Item 4, design waiver we're still requesting.
Correct.
Item 6, page 4. Design waiver is still requesting. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Number 7, same design waiver is still requesting. Or
Yes.
I mean a variance.
Is that a variance or?
Yeah. Existing non-conforming, but it's
It's a variance?
Is it not the same as 6?
Yes, variance, sorry. I'm just trying to get the as written. As written.
We gave them a whole extra half hour.
I have a list, which I know Jim loves for us there, the whole way.
I like that.
And all variance.
Very helpful.
Item 8 is about the number of trees, 3-inch caliper every 40 feet on all safety islands. The caliper in the plan shows it to be less than 3 inches. I just want to make sure we're providing 3 inches.
I'll remind you. Yes.
And then if you could just discuss, I guess, the shortage of trees, which you're proposing to do.
Certainly. Obviously, with the number of trees, we do have heavy vegetation both to the north and the west that's existing. We have existing trees located on the west side of our property along 35, and then we're extending additional trees along 35. There'll be 3 more on the east side or the south side of 35. However, there's a sanitary sewer easement that extends for a good portion of our frontage further to the south, adjacent to the property to the southeast. Because it's a sanitary sewer easement, there's a sanitary line that we can't put trees there. But what we have done is we've provided some additional trees, as you've already seen on the east side of the learning experience, also on the north side of the property around the parking area. We put ornamental trees throughout the interior parking area as well to address it. And I think when you look at what we're currently proposing compared to certainly our neighbors, we're well above, especially along 35, which you see along that 35 corridor.
So to summarize, you're technically not meeting, but providing additional trees.
Yes.
And supplementing the existing vegetation on site to meet the intent of that condition.
Correct. I think we're putting quite a bit of landscaping throughout the site where we can.
Item 11 talks about the truck
turning. And if I remember at the last meeting, we had a lengthy discussion on the size of the trucks. The trucks, I think, the last set of plans showed SU30. These plans do show an SU40 at this time. I think the concern of the board at the time was we don't want to see a tractor trailer on site because we've seen sites where an applicant testifies a smaller vehicle than it's built and we see a larger vehicle. So we wanted to make sure that what the maximum size truck that will be on the site.
We would vote the stipulation that's SU40 in the resolution.
Did we cover number 9?
I was just discussing the item that wasn't covered yet, but we can go back to 9.
This is competing comment. Right. But before we jump back, an SU40 is what kind of vehicle?
It's a large box truck. It's a single unit vehicle. There's no articulation.
Okay, single unit.
No,
it's not a 40, but a container on the back of the truck. Okay. Is that?
But remember, this is only a satellite Dunkin which
it's primarily
which they only deliver 2 dozen donuts or what?
It's primarily a day in the morning at 5 a.m.
Okay. All right, you're saying an SU40. All right, now we go back to June's number 9.
And that discusses the proximity of parking within the outer walls of the structure. The ordinance requires 20 feet. We have 10 feet of the Dunkin Donuts and 20 feet of the daycare. So a little bit of testimony as to the seeking that authority for that.
Certainly, I believe, primarily that's usually a fire concern. But we provided wheel stops to ensure that there's safe pedestrian access around all of the buildings. And we did receive a letter from your fire official with no concerns relative to the separation of the parking and the buildings.
I have a question. Although it's not pertaining to the fire vehicle, but things could happen. Having a tire store in that area, a lot of times people will park overnight and they'll have a key drop. They'll say, oh, I'll leave my car here and my wife will pick me up later. Does the tire company, will they move the car inside the building, or will there be an area where they can keep the cars? Because it's going to be if they have it overnight.
I expect in that situation, if someone was dropping off, that the directions would actually probably park vehicles along the parking at the rear, which is the north side, so keep everything in the front.
Okay, so the front would be open. I mean,
that's the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Jumping to item 14, I believe there was testimony at the last meeting about deliveries and garbage not occurring during pickup or drop off of the kids, so the off-peak hours would be correct?
That's correct. We'll add in the program regarding that.
In regards to number 15, about details for the...
I understand the safety reason, the whole purpose of the question of why we're doing it. How do we enforce that?
Well, it would be written into the resolution as a continuing condition of the approval. And if there was a violation, then they would be subject to basically a citation from the zoning law. How are you going to enforce it? Beyond that, I mean, that would be something that the zoning officer would have to observe, issue a citation, and enforce it in municipal court. We'll hope that they abide by it so that it's not a continuing problem if it happened.
Right, and I think from an operational perspective, it would be, it's to be in the interest of the shopping center ownership and to keep the standards happy to make sure and coordinate and enforce that.
But we know the zoning officer is to enforce this. Is the observation that it's got to be by the police department?
Sure. Well, if the police department observed it, they could write a report and the zoning officer could use
use that as a basis for a violation, and as a police officer then would have to come to municipal court to testify as to what they observed. I agree with you, it's not likely to ever be cited. It's not likely to be monitored.
But I think it doesn't benefit the property owner to violate that. There's no incentive for the property owner.
The property owner isn't the one that's going to violate this. Dunkin Donuts or the tire place.
Right, but I mean, if the daycare center, if this is happening in the daycare center, it's going to be an unhappy tenant complaining to the landlord, is to a certain extent self-policing.
And it's better to have it than not have it at all. Like it gives us that, even though it may never be enforced, it's better to just have it there than not have it there at all.
Very good.
Item 15, there was testimony at the last meeting about the details of the play area. If you can add a note to the plans that the play area will be ADA compliant as applicable.
Yes.
We can jump all the way to item 23, on page 5. If you can address the loading for the Dunkin Donuts, the retail, and the daycare.
Certainly for the Dunkin Donuts, the primary is going to be a 5 a.m. delivery with the donuts. That's going to be either a van or a small box truck. 5 a.m. Nobody else is going to be on site. They'll deliver the donuts, and then they're out. Then I'll utilize one of the parking spaces, probably directly in front of the Dunkin Donuts. The larger vehicle comes for the Dunkin Donuts or for the retail use. There's a designated area on the north side behind the Mavis stripe, meet your ordinance requirement that those vehicles would be able to utilize. The Mavis itself utilizes the loading area directly in front of their garage doors, so that vehicle pulls up, stages there, they load into the garage doors, and they're out. So there you would be able to control any, obviously, the garage door operation, so there's no obstruction, no conflict at that time.
And when will the Mavis do it?
I believe that Mavis is a morning delivery.
I have a question on that. Since they're receiving new tires, the old tires, scrap tires, are they going to be stored inside or outside? Definitely inside.
Absolutely.
Because we have a few companies on which I have to jump on when I see them piled by 50, just outside it becomes...
They have a designated area inside.
Okay.
Okay, page 7, item F4, or really item F. What's not addressed, you will address in regards to the drainage aspects.
Yes, under code we will provide for that.
Now, item 5 under F talks about critical slopes. If you can just provide some testimonies to where they are and why you're disturbing them.
Certainly, I think I tried to cover that majority of that at the last hearing. There are critical slopes actually located along Route 35, just for the grade differential. So we're putting like sidewalk and also some landscaping there, so there's some disturbance there. The other area that's really being impacted, there's one at the northwest corner in order to get a proper radius around the building. That's a very small area, steep slope. And then the other area is located here at the northeast corner of the learning experience. And it's not the building, it's strictly a small portion of the play area. I believe it was under 500 square foot of the play area. And all we're doing is we're putting a retaining wall in there to offset that so the play area is nice and flat.
So does that become a, do they need a variance for that?
No, they don't need a variance for it. They have to provide testimony that satisfies the board that is necessary for the site development. So technical design waiver. In J, landscaping and lighting. If you could, it's just easier because there's a few that are addressed, but if you do about half of which have comments too, if you could just go in a more orderly fashion through those comments.
Certainly. And I'm just going to reiterate that we're taking the site, I believe that we've substantially landscaped with the interior parking lot, the perimeter areas as well, in addition to providing additional landscaping to the north side toward that, the buffer area, which is wetlands. So there's really no impact to any of the uses to the north. The first one is where it requires exterior perimeter, all buildings to include a landscape strip at least 4 feet wide. We have the south side of the learning experience that adheres to that. But when you look along the west, the north, and the east side of the learning experience, that's the children's secure access way back to the play area. We would not be able to provide additional landscaping there. Mavis itself has a garage door, so we really can't put landscaping in front of the garage doors. And then the retail and the Dunkin Donuts, what we've done is we've provided some additional landscaping in those islands to enhance that. That's just a very small portion of the retail building. Item 2, that is, I mentioned that before, that's where the ordinance requires 2 shrubs, 1 shade tree or ornamental tree for each 1,500 square foot of yard area, not including areas devoted to parking. Just when you start to look at the yard areas to the north and to the west, there's already a substantial amount of landscaping in those areas. So that would be a design waiver at that point. But when you look at the amount of landscaping that's being proposed, I consider it fairly substantial, relative, especially to what's existing there. Dropping down to item 4, I will provide the calculations, but with the additional landscaping that we provided interior to the parking areas, we do comply with that requirement. Item 5 was addressed. Item 6 was 1 tree required every 30 foot above curbing. That's around the perimeter of the site, the parking area. I believe that we provide a substantial amount of shade trees now throughout the site, and we meet the intent of the ordinance at that. And then 7 was addressed. 8 is the shade trees along the 35 right away. I testified before. We're going to comply with everything except for the section that's in the sanitary sewer easement, and we can't plant shade trees in there for obvious reasons. 9 goes back to the lighting. I discussed that last time. We're fairly close to meeting the ordinance requirement. It's a fairly tough ordinance requirement to meet. We provide plans to improve upon with the prior initial design. But I think that for us to get any closer you would end up with more lights than you really want on site in order to get uniformity. I think there would be a detriment to the overall site. I think the current design is safe and efficient and well designed.
And security lighting you have on site?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I think
So to go through my
Very good.
I'm sorry?
No, I don't know that you're up. Yes, we need to go to yours.
We'll just continue the landscaping to stay consistent with the law.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And then we'll, I think, jump back to the sign. So how about section B, page 8 of 11? Under section 7B, that's, I thought we had that comment, it's not overlapping.
So the parking lot island shall contain a 1 shade tree for each 4 parking spaces along the edge of the parking island, and should be landscaped according to the landscape plan. When you look at the plan, obviously throughout the site, we'll have 4 shade trees on the east side. We have landscaping, the trees every 30 foot along 35. We put ornamental trees on the islands on the entrance as you pull into the site. And we provide some additional shade trees along the north side. So I think we provide a substantial amount of shade trees above and beyond what's out there without putting any additional trees. I think would be unnecessary.
That takes care of B and C. How about section D? The refused storage area, trees are very uniform. I think you're providing some landscaping along
The north side of the
the north
dumpster.
side, but partially addressed.
I didn't provide that dimension, but that should be a 5-foot island on the north side of that dumpster, so I think we have that.
So you're providing 3 arborvitaes or 2 arborvitaes? 2 arborvitaes. 2 arborvitaes. You can't provide you can't provide a third one there?
I was just worried about the spacing. If you want me to show 3, we could try to. I didn't know we would be able to squeeze 3 in the same row.
All right, so, okay, and then E, you said you will comply, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Under building design, when would ask for architectural plans?
I believe architectural plans were submitted, correct?
With building material and color specified?
Yes, I believe so.
I have a question. The lighting around your parking lot, the pole lighting. Now, I don't know what time in the evening or in the winter evening when, or in the morning when Dunkin Donuts would open up, but will the pole lighting be on continuously? Because I don't know. I know you're going to have security lighting, but will that be timed lighting according to when Dunkin Donuts opens?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Will there be any decorative wall-mounted lighting on the front, on the side?
I know that they're in front of the building. I don't believe so.
How about the mechanical equipment? Will it be,
Screen on the roof, so it's all top screen. There are some wall packs on front of the retail building, and I did testify that actually on the door lighting around the perimeter of the learning experience, but they're not the ornate wall packs, just people.
Just, there is wall-mounted lighting.
There's wall mounted lighting.
Just to go back to your 9 building design B, have you seen this material?
I have it.
That's why I'm asking the question here. He says they submitted it.
But I don't.
The board has, you haven't seen it, never mind the board.
You're talking about the learning?
I'm sorry.
The learning he did testify, but there's another building to the Mavis that is, the learning he did testify rather extensively last time, but there's this other one that we need testimony regarding compliance with section 54521, compliance with 604. I don't believe that was done last time.
Okay, we have the architect here, so we can have it. You can address the board.
But prior to that, for the engineer, the sign setback was another, which was not discussed. He's proposing a 16.75 feet, correct? Sign setback for the recess.
I thought I said, I know we didn't approve, but I said it would make sense to go with that variance to place it and not to cause any problem. That's the best place for it.
Is there a shoulder there on 35? That leads into the,
There is.
I know the traffic engineer is going to tell me. He's been waiting so long for his chance to go. The last time he,
I think he's the first one here tonight.
Just one question while we're waiting here about the playground for the Learning Center. I believe last time we did discuss that that was a fire point where kids can go to safety if there was a fire in the building. Correct? We can go to the one back corner of the play area.
I think that's correct.
Well, my question is the only entrance to the play area from within the building? Because I remember specifically the application when we heard it the last time. If he, you want to. Is the only way into the playground through the front of the building? Because I know safety was your number one.
So, good evening for the record, Matthew Jarmel, I testified last night. Recognize I'm still in the room. The answer is no, there are two gates out of the playground that are what the record said to the public way or to the other parking area. They're controlled with safety latches, so only an adult will be able to open.
And from the inside? They can only be open from the inside or from the outside?
They're designed to be open from the inside. However, a fireman within the property.
Got it, okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
It's a architecture.
Yeah, we can have, we
But, yeah.
have the architect. Do we want to do that now? Do we want to have, do we go to your, after John, we're done with John.
Parking design, we had parking design with, no, that part I didn't testify last time about the need for the 89 spaces, page 7 of my letter.
Yes.
And section B, we had asked about adequate signs and pavement marking with the fire alarm board, so that you will work with them.
Yes, right.
And this is not, this is just a reminder, just that the plan should be revised to cite the recently recodified.
Yes, I apologize, I was able to get
That's
that.
okay, that's fine. I think we are done.
Any other questions for this witness from the board? Anyone from the public?
Thank you.
I have a question. Well, I apologize. I didn't see your hand go up, sir.
It was my left hand. I was looking for the right one. Could you point out whether...
Wait, come on, all the way up.
Just be your name and address, please. Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive in Monmouth, New Jersey.
This is for questioning, but we're going to put you under oath just in case. Swear testimony about to give forward the truth, all the truth, nothing but the truth, so we got it.
I did. Okay. Could you just point out where the sign is going to be?
Hold the microphone up, you have.
Can you hear me with the microphone on?
Yes.
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. And the traffic is traveling this way?
That's correct.
And the sign's not going to hinder people looking down the road or cars coming?
It's outside the site triangle.
It is. Okay, that's all I have to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. It's free to go now.
Gary, what's up, Gary? We're going to make the traffic engineer wait.
As they always make the rest of us all intersections.
Gary is not going to see.
name, please?
Gary Cleach, spelled K-L-I-E-S-C-H. I'm the owner of GK&A Architects in Rutherford, New Jersey, just 36 Thames Avenue.
Gary, if you would, could you just briefly...
First of all, please raise your hand. Quick up about your work with all three of them together.
Gary, if you would, board veteran background experience as a licensed architect for many years.
Sure, I'm a licensed architect in the state of Missouri, primary license. I'm a certified interior designer. Graduated from the University Institute of Technology in 1990. Licensed in 18 states, as East Coast, and appeared approximately 100 awards. Thank you.
Okay, Gary, if you would, you prepared the architectural plans that were submitted with respect to the western of the building, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Could you just walk the board through the plans and the design of the proposed materials?
Sure. I'm referring to A1.1. I don't think I've marked it in the
You know, is that is part of the submission set, the board has
I
it?
believe so.
So as long as there's no revisions to that, it's part of the submission set, so not referencing that.
Okay.
So you're talking about the Mavis and Dunkin Donuts, right?
Correct. Mavis and Dunkin Donuts, but in a building with a retail center in the middle. I'm referring to sheet A1.1. On the top portion of the building, that is the elevation that's facing Route 35. On the left-hand side of that elevation is the Dunkin Donuts. On the right-hand side, closer to the entryway, is the Mavis Discount Tire. In the middle, there is a 3,600 square feet retail space that's unidentified tenant. It could be one tenant or two tenants, 1,800 each, or 3,600. On the left-hand side is a typical Dunkin Donuts that has the monolith or the entrance tower that is lighter tan color on the top and has 8 shades of brown at the bottom and varying shades of that tan to brown color. Over the window, to the left of the entry door is a orange ephes or synthetic stucco accent. Top left-hand side. The remainder of the building is hardy plank or cement siding in tan color, and the cornice matches the tan color all around on all sides. To the right, the Mavis building is a white split-face block with a gray split-face base. Above the garage doors is primarily glass facing Route 35. It's all glass garage doors. Up top is a white cornice. The typical Mavis teal color is the metal fascia band that runs across the top. And the lettering is yellow with a border on it, and it has 2 white stripes that's painted on the teal. Building, the portion of the building in the center has some aspects of both. The white cornice continues across the 2 retail spaces. They have gray split face block between the 2 storefronts and a tan color above the storefronts. So it's kind of a blend of both anchors. That's pretty much it around the entire building for the color. The Mavis is white.
The garage doors on Mavis, are those fogged glass or clear glass?
Clear glass.
Are the attics in that particular building, all 3, is it all connected together, or are they separate?
They're all separate. Mavis, Dunkin, and then the retail center. So the 3,600 right now is open. But if they have 2 tenants, they'll have to put a fire-rated demising wall up to the roof.
All the buildings are fully sprinkled?
I don't think we are required to have sprinklers in this building size.
So you guys decided not to do that?
Honestly, I haven't gotten to that point yet. Check the code for that. The code requires, building code requires, certainly be providing it.
The auto operation, I know we know it's tires, but will they be selling batteries?
Yes, flip over to the next page, which is the floor plan. This is A 2.1. Mavis is on the right-hand side. There's 6 bays in this facility. Primarily it's tires. They do oil change, they change batteries, they do some limited maintenance and repairs.
The only concern I have is battery explosion, and that happens occasionally. Usually it doesn't, but sometimes it does. Where they should have a specialized area. I know you can charge it on the car, but sometimes they pre-charge a battery with a fast charge. And I hope they consider doing that in a certain area, a confined area. I didn't check the owners, I missed. The question is a safety precaution.
And I know the general operations, I don't know the specifics of battery.
I'd like you to make sure that happens, that there is a safety area where the batteries are charged. Because those things can explode, sometimes they'll never happen. But there should be a safety area.
In the plan?
Yeah, and they should have something, and the same thing goes where safety things, we talk about battery fluid, they should have a clean area to wash eyes or what have you. It's a safety first thing.
And would this be covered by OSHA?
It should be, well, OSHA for the eyes, for the wash, but I don't know about the battery. I'm not sure about that.
We can have a note.
Yeah, put a note on that.
Yeah, and once we get into the architecture and construction documents, we'll be addressing all those.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a question back on the garage doors. You don't have to put this page back. Will they be framed out in some neutral color as opposed to the teal or whatever?
They're white.
They're white too.
Yeah. The split face in the middle is white and the door is white.
I made a comment about, section 545.1. As per that section, to address the testimony, the appearance of all buildings and building material types to ensure that they're compatible with each other, like within this context, and also buildings to be designed to be attractive from all vantage points, which is 604B of this ordinance. Would you please testify to the board regarding compliance with these 2 sections of the ordinance?
Well, the Mavis and the Dunkin Donuts have corporate prototypes that every location has to conform to. Mavis, as you know, is white and teal, and the Dunkin is orange, tan, and brown. That's why we chose to put them on the anchors and have the retail in the middle. And we incorporated some of those elements from each of the 2 end users into that middle tenant to try to blend them, but orange and teal don't really blend so well. So we kept those elements to the ends and the neutral colors in the middle. As for the rest of the building, it is drive-through that we're proposing, so all elevations of the Dunkin and the rear of the Mavis and retail strips will be matching colors to their primary uses.
The heating and air conditioning units, they're on the roof?
Yes.
They're screened?
They are all screened from 35 from the side and from the front, the back is open.
You said you hadn't got figuring out sprinkler systems, for instance. Does the ordinance require sprinkler systems?
Most, we recommended it in all buildings, obviously.
Right.
I mean, I would appreciate this complex as tight as it is to have in one building, the schools would be taken care of, but I can't answer that question.
I think Boca codes.
Sprinklers aren't part of the ordinance, part of the,
So
based on the size? You would see the type of building that requirements.
It's not an ordinance conversation, it's a building code conversation.
Right, so Boca codes would have that.
That's what I meant by that statement, that I hadn't done a code review yet. But based on my past experience, we don't need a sprinkler because the demise
to do that. The property is very tight for all vehicles. A fire hydrant was added, and a lot of things were thought of to do that, but we would definitely assist the borrowers. Okay. Questions for the
Your comment, saying about the materials, etc. You testified that the color, not to the materials, the materials are the same across the board, you just have different colors?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the textures. The Mavis has split face block, smooth face on the back, but it's same color. Metal panel, smooth metal panel on the top. And the Dunkin is cement siding and synthetic slab.
Anything else?
No, is there no further questions?
No.
Questions from the public?
Any questions from the public? All right.
Okay. Go right ahead. He emerges.
Everybody's favorite.
Justin Taylor, Taylor, and the business address is 1904 Main Street, Middletown, New Jersey.
Okay, Justin, if you would, could you provide the board your background and experience as a traffic engineer in New Jersey?
Absolutely. I hold a bachelor in engineering from the University of Delaware. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey, as well as a certified professional traffic operations engineer by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. Practicing traffic planning for approximately the last 17 years. I'm a principal firm with that traffic, and family member, and I testify for us.
Okay, if you would, could you just describe for the board what you were asked to review in connection with this application and what you're finding?
Absolutely, and I'll try and be brief. We've had plenty of testimony this evening in the previous hearing on the operation of the site, recirculation. My task was to review the site and what's proposed to determine whether there's sufficient capacity in the adjacent roadway, the adjacent intersections to handle the traffic that will be proposed by the site, as well as make sure that it conforms to the board standards, the town standards, as well as the NJDOT standards, since we are accessing the state highway. In order to do this, we performed a traffic impact study, which conducted traffic counts along Route 35, generated traffic for proposed use, and ran capacity analyses for that driveway. We submitted that to the New Jersey Department of Transportation as well as this board. And we have received from the department confirmation and a draft permit from them for the driveway as you have seen on the A1 and A4. Essentially, we're maintaining the existing driveway as it is. It's a right turn in and right turn out along Route 35 with an island in the center. Now, the DOT has asked for us to improve that island to make it mountable, for vehicles coming in and out. They've also asked us to install sidewalk, just as the board did, and to improve the curb where it's in deficient state of repair along the state highway. What we found, and we've agreed to all that, we've resubmitted back to the department, and we're waiting for the finalization of that permit. The other tasks that fell to me to review the parking and circulation of the site. We've heard testimony from Mr. Palis on how vehicles were entered, determine whether or not there'll be patrons of the learning experience that turn right along the front of that building, or circulate to the Mavis, to the left, or around the back, or the Dunkin Donuts. We provided sufficient access aisles for all those vehicles to be able to do that and really kind of separate the utilization between those uses. Now, at the last hearing, we did hear some concern about vehicles entering and exiting, and we had a chance to actually meet with the professionals and kind of discuss that, and to bring back up what we came up with was to kind of provide a little bit extra guidance and clarification for vehicles as they're coming out and returning to the driveway. And what we're proposing to do here
is to provide do not block the box striping in that central area to really reinforce that as you're waiting to come out of the site, you should be waiting at those stop bars, and then once there's sufficient area here in the driveway, pull forward and exit. We do have the benefit of a traffic signal on the road in close proximity to this, and so what will happen is there'll be a big slug of traffic running down 35 northbound, and then it'll stop because of the traffic light, and you'll have an ability for vehicles to exit the site safely within that area. There was the question, there's a shoulder, it's a 7-foot shoulder, which is not a full width lane, but it's a room for a vehicle to get out of the lane a little bit, slow down as they come in. And again, the DOT's looked at this, and then they didn't request anything further from that. We think that'll actually provide a safe area for the vehicles to enter the site.
Can I stop for one minute? When you, I want to make sure when you were mentioning egress for the site, you mentioned that the cars would stop prior to egress on the inboard side of the block striping, and then egress past the block-to-box when it was clear?
Yes, that's correct. So what we anticipate, there's enough room within that driveway.
Really? You think that
I think people will follow the stop sign and stop as they're exiting, yes, I do. What we found was, based on the capacity analysis that we performed, that on average, you're going to have a car or two waiting there, coming out during the busy hours. And there's sufficient room in the area of the driveway on the egress lane to stack those two vehicles in this area. But we wanted to just further reinforce people that, you should wait, you should look and make sure that's clear before you proceed to that egress movement. And the only
thing is the cars entering the site, in fact, can go 1, 2, 3 directions for sure. How does somebody sitting at those stop signs, those stop places, guess where the hell that car is?
Essentially, they're going to have to wait and determine where the vehicle's going. We anticipate the majority of the traffic, both the learning experience and the Dunkin Donuts, are the higher generators here. Maybe this isn't a really high traffic generator, and the other generic retail with its size isn't a particularly large traffic generator. So the majority of the inbound traffic either be making a right into the learning experience area to drop off, or for the most part circulating around the back of the building to the drive-thru for the Dunkin Donuts. But vehicles waiting...
I agree with you with 2 empty retail stores. But you don't know what's in those retail stores or what he's going to generate.
I mean, that's correct, but given the size, you're not going to put another Starbucks, another coffee and donut shop that's going to have a high AM generator. I know there's some talk of possibly a yoga studio or something else out of that really, we don't anticipate any type of AM generation from that. Now, that being said, we don't know exactly what's going to be in there. Well,
that's 30.
We're talking about 3,600 square feet. The vast majority of that building is the Mavis and then the Dunkin. So I agree with you, there will be people coming in and turning left, but it operates essentially as any other 4-legged stop-controlled intersection. And all 3 approaches, other than the inbound, are required to stop. We've put a stop sign on the southbound approach coming from the rear of the building, as well as the eastbound and westbound movements exiting the learning experience and the front of the retail building, so that the people coming in have the right of way. It operates like most shopping centers.
And I agree with you, I was looking at these. It screams to be a 4-way stop, but it's not. It's a 3-way and a free-for-all.
So in designing along the highway, that's really how you do it, because you want to get the traffic off of the roadway as quickly as possible. And so that's why all 3 of them, the other 3 are stop approaches, allowing the inbound free flow whichever direction they're going to go.
Was there any exploration of, or would DOT permit one ingress and one egress, as opposed to what's there now? But right now, it's combined ingress and egress, right?
That's right.
Would DOT permit separated ingress and egress locations?
Yes, I mean, they would. We look at this from my standpoint, from a capacity standpoint, and its relevance and compliance with the DOT standards. And what we came up with was, because there's capacity there, that the driveway as it exists today and as it is proposed would operate safely.
The difference between the existing condition and the proposed condition is that there was one user for the existing condition and one parking lot and one tent, right? One use.
That's right.
Now you have multiple uses, and there'll be a choice once you enter the site, correct?
Well, I don't see that really as different from what was there, considering the way the parking layout of the previous site was. You still had the option to go park on the front of the building, park on the side of the building as you were coming in. And so it's really the same thing, given the fact that it's obviously different tenants now, but it's the same operation that was there before. There's still the ability to turn that, go straight, make a right in the different parking areas for the restaurant.
There are certainly no stop signs there with the previous
That's correct.
user, right?
The way it was done, maybe it's controlled the system supposed to be.
Right. I mean, the chairman mentioned that at 3 egress locations, there's certainly crossover. People don't understand how to use a 3 or 4-way stop, right? Which apparently a lot of people don't. My concern is that obviously there's no stop sign on the ingress side, and that we have traffic going in each direction, back and forth, in each of the 3 choices, right? So you can't only turn right or go straight or go left. There's no one-ways.
That's correct. All 3 of those other ways are
two-way.
Yeah, two-way. That's correct.
Was anything reviewed with regard to making at least one of the egress aisles one way? I mean, you certainly have the width to do a 2-way, but it's not a restrictor, but it may provide a smoother traffic flow.
From a circulation standpoint,
yeah.
we start that only because the way the learning experience is oriented with the front doors here, we need the parking area on the eastern side of the property to be 2-way.
I kind of get the learning experience side, because I don't think you have adequate room to circulate all the way around the building, not to mention the fact that you really wouldn't have a play area if you did that, right?
That's correct.
And I would want to make certain that the commercial use on the left-hand side isn't dictating the fact that you wouldn't want to circulate around the back of the building first and then to the front.
We would like, the intent was to try to separate the traffic from Mavis and Dunkin Donuts as well.
No, I understand. I'm saying to you, if you had a one-way ingress and then circulated counterclockwise around the Mavis building so you're in front of the building, but you've wrapped around the sidewalk already. You can't make that immediate left. Is the driver the retail use for that? That you would want someone to come in and be in front of the retail use rather than to go around the building first?
So, yeah, essentially it's the retail and the Mavis. The Mavis customers will have access from the front here, not from the rear.
No, that's not my question. My question is obviously when you look at the drive-through lanes, you have one lane to drive through and pick up your coffee and one lane to pass through.
That's correct.
Right. So you wouldn't entertain one-way traffic going ingressing the site, going straight, wrapping around the building counterclockwise, and then coming back out in a one-way scenario. You're still back in front of the buildings, in front of the retail uses, but you've got to wrap around once.
I think what that does is force an interaction between the traffic for the retail and Mavis with the Dunkin Donuts customers in the rear of the building and then the drive-through lanes. I think providing the 2-way up front allows for better circulation for both the Mavis and the retail building.
Well, actually, that's a result of what's left based on the development, right? That's what you're telling me is that the drive-through lane for Dunkin Donuts and then the pass-through lane adjacent to that, that's what was left based on the proposed development on site, right?
No, I don't believe so. For a drive-through to function, it needs to be one way close to the building. So it's really not possible to provide a 2-way.
You're missing my point. My point is that the Mavis, the unnamed tenant, and the Dunkin Donuts, right? Potentially it could have been 2, and there could have been more space to circulate around the building, right?
If you're saying could we shorten the building here and provide more space on the side to circulate around?
Yeah. Exactly what I'm saying.
We could have, but you can't provide 2-way access on that side and still have the one-way, the drive-through adjacent to the building. You'd have vehicles traveling on the wrong side of the road.
No, just one way. Just one way. There would be more room. There would be one drive-through lane. I'm not trying to redesign anything for you. That's not my job.
Okay.
There would be one lane adjacent for the drive-through, but there would be more space now to fully wrap around the building. Only one way.
You could have more lane.
I understand.
There are 2 lanes.
I understand. So if there are 2 lanes, there's a pass-through lane, there's a drive-through lane. So my question is, was there any consideration to have ingress for the Mavis user, right? Ingress straight, wrap counterclockwise around the building, and then appear in front of the building, Dunkin Donuts, the unnamed tenant, and then the Mavis in that order. Instead of, and that would limit, there would be no left-hand turn when you ingress the site. You have to go straight and wrap around.
I do understand what you're saying. Can't say I looked at it. I think what we provided and what we looked at as it's laid out today, safely operate, provides safe operation for the site and prevents the vehicles from needing to circulate around the back of the building. I mean, and because all 3 of them are stopped, I don't think that just making the one way, the Mr. Manager, the driveway in front of Mavis, one way accomplishes anything other than what we're proposing here. The same amount of conflict of vehicles at this intersection occur because there's vehicles exiting from there. You've taken one decision point out, but you still have the vehicles exiting from the other 3 locations as well as the vehicles entering the city. I don't see what it accomplishes.
Well, what it does is if you force what Kevin suggested, the counterclockwise rotation, you have improved conflict of people coming out of the learning center trying to get back on the highway. The most dangerous point in that whole intersection there is people leaving the learning center after having dropped off their kid and now crossing over to make the left-hand turn to exit onto the only way they can go on the 35 north.
That's crossover inwards.
But they would still be crossing over the same amount of traffic, whether or not the...
No, they wouldn't.
Well,
They'd only be making they only could do a break turn only out of the learning center and circulate around the building.
Oh, you're saying to prohibit a left turn out of the learning center. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about prohibiting this left in.
No.
You're talking about making this right out.
That eliminates that whole, what I believe is where your accidents are actually going to occur.
Well, John, I think Kevin was saying eliminate the left turn in, weren't you?
Well, he does.
The answer is yes. If you add the chairman's recommendation to make it a right turn only when you egress the learning center, that reduces one more conflict.
Right. So we wouldn't have to restrict that left.
No, I didn't say that here. It reduces the conflicts here. I mean, my concern is that since there's only one ingress and egress, and look, nobody figures out, nobody understands how to manipulate, how to negotiate a four-way stop, much less a three-way stop, right? And I would hate to have that conflict happen on the highway or adjacent to the highway. So how do we make that a little safer? Because there are multiple users here, and that's the biggest difference between the current use or the use that was there. And that's my biggest concern. There are multiple users, and people coming in and making choices to go right, straight, or left, okay, based on where they're going. And if you're coming in before, you're going to one spot, you're parking, and you're getting out.
And I understand the chairman's point. I think that's actually a good suggestion, because I agree with you that really is the biggest conflict here. It's the person sitting, waiting, and driving across. The other two movements give you good visibility through here, and it's not that much. You're not crossing entire intersections here or there. So I think that's something we could definitely do. I would still be hesitant to prohibit that left across, because I'm really hesitant to really push all the traffic around the back of this building when it doesn't really need to be back there. You really allow users to pull straight into the Mavis, they're coming to Mavis, or pull the front of the retail.
I think that if you were to limit that egress from the children's from the learning center to a right only, and then circulate around the building before you egress, I think that would be an improvement on that flow.
And it's a great suggestion.
And then I think it would be more amenable to making a left-hand turn in once you egress the site.
It takes that 1 point conflict out.
It takes the biggest point conflict.
And remember, we've got 3 currently with the potential of 5 tenants here. The 2 now watching to see, does the Dunkin Donuts person who now has their coffee is getting caffeined up, they're trying to get the hell to work also. So that,
I think Dunkin Donuts may actually.
And let's increase the Dunkin Donuts.
Because
if there's drive by, they won't be able to resist.
You've heard a good thing.
you may as well get a cup of coffee and 3 donuts.
Absolutely.
You know?
Drop the kids off, you ready for
And then we'll put it in a weight loss center at one of So,
And just to expand on that, when you met with DOT, and did they have any concerns that they were joint, that they were ingress and egress at the same spot?
They did not actually. They reviewed the whole project, and other than minor modifications to the driveway that I spoke of earlier, they had no concerns.
What was the number of trips?
The total number of trips for the site's proposed? During the busiest peak hour, we are looking at approximately 140 new trips, or about 70 in and 70 out. Those are new to the area. The total trips that are coming in and out of the site during the maximum peak hour would be 297, which is 160 in and 140 out.
297 at the peak hour.
That's correct. Good at morning peak hour.
Got it. And DOT was okay with that, I assume, due to their calculation of square footage?
That's correct. So we generate traffic for it, give them the traffic counts.
What is your allowed total number of trips by DOT standard?
So they don't give a maximum number of trips. They base it upon the operation and the level of service of the driveway. They would allow for a set driveway to go to the bottom of the level of service E, which is 49.9 seconds delay. We're not there. We're at 37 seconds. So we actually have a little bit of cushion, and that's on that Saturday. For the other 2 peak hours, we're at 19.8 during the morning and 29.9 during the evening peak hour.
Got it. And the only reason I'm asking this is expanding off of Mr. Santorino and Chairman's comment of, so you, long story is you're anticipating DOT's approval based on you don't think that the problem of the egress is going to deter DOT from issuing the permit?
No. So like I said, we actually submitted it. They reviewed our traffic study, our plans, and issued
Through a
us.
pre-application process?
No, we physically submitted to them. We have an application pending with them. We had the first review letter. Where they sent us draft permits, approved the traffic study and the operation of the driveway and square footages, and just had minor technical cleanup that they wanted done on the plan.
Got it. Okay.
Out of curiosity, does DOT, in this particular case and in general, like, do they know it's a Dunkin Donuts? Do they know it's a learning center?
Yes.
Yes. They understand the business? Okay.
I have a question. Sure. So with the change in the traffic circulation for the learning experience to direct exiting traffic to the right to circulate the site, are we then talking about making that driveway aisle between the two buildings one way, away from Highway 35? Or are we allowing the parking spaces parked against the Mavis to still egress directly towards 35 from that point?
I would think we'd still maintain it as two-way. I think it allows the learning experience parents, if they park along the side of the building, to be able to exit that down, as well as park alongside of the Mavis in that access. So I don't see a need to make it a long circulation.
When we drop the children off at the learning center, at the learning experience, I remember in some cases, in some learning centers, the cars just park in the front doors, somebody's attendant's there to take the child out of the car and take off. So in this particularly, the parents have to go into a parking space. It's not just drop your kid off, open the door, and boom, it's done.
That's correct. The parents actually have to walk the children into the building.
Okay, that's the way the learning experience works. Fine.
Montessori does it the way you're going.
I know, and there's a couple other small, like churches, they have small nurseries, and they just open the door, bring kids in. Okay, I understand.
I'm confused. The only restricted movement that you're now proposing is that when you leave the learning experience parking area in front, you're restricted to a right-hand turn.
Correct.
But everything else would be lefts and rights throughout the site.
That's correct.
So folks parked on the side of the school would be able to back up and go forward?
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of going just around the building?
And then go that direction, that's correct.
Around the Dunkin Donuts?
That's correct.
And why do you think that's the best?
I don't see necessity to push all the traffic around the back. We understand the chair and the board's concern with the proximity of this intersection of vehicles entering. Respectfully, we've now pushed them 150 feet back. People have already made their decisions of where they're going. And vehicles that are parked here give them the ability to exit and head back out. Eliminating some of the conflict and the volume that's going to be running along the face of here. There's no need to mingle the traffic parking here for the Mavis with the traffic on the front of the building or the vehicles coming around the back of the drive-thru.
But somebody coming out of the front parking area for learning experience who does not want to go around the counterclockwise loop could pull into a parking space.
Right.
And then back up, basically do a K-turn, and come back out of line.
Yes, they could.
I mean, that's the case, like ever.
I know, I'm just saying that.
Yes.
Yes, you could do that.
You
could do that.
I think it's easier to go around. Path of least resistance.
All right, so that goes back to one restricted movement is leaving the front area of the learning experience. It's right on. Everything else, you don't have to talk about in a resolution.
The good thing is it's going to increase Dunkin Donuts business, I'm sure.
I mean, you don't think that we're creating a big bottleneck and going around the other way? We're filtering up everyone around that loop. I mean, they're going through a lot of parking lot there. I mean, you also have another parking lot in the back. Now you're seeing, you're getting through like going to your third parking lot before you're getting out. So I just feel like that's with the loop.
Yeah, but that 8 to 10, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, to 7 to 10 o'clock, that's where it's going to be a bottleneck. When people in the morning are rushing, they're not taking their time, they're rushing.
You know, they're still going to have to stop for the people making a right. It's just, they're not making a left, they're making a right. Still, you can't barrel in there. In either case, you're still going to have the issue of people coming in off the highway quickly, not seeing anyone.
Well, the only thing we can say, it looks like a safety problem, but I mean, the DOT approved their initial plan, and are we overthinking it? I don't have that background for safety. You're saying, huh? No, well, DOT is another subject, but
you're comfortable as a traffic engineer.
I am.
With what's proposed and also what's been.
But I think the suggestion of the chair and the board is a good one. You know.
Yeah, it's a great idea, but you know, we're not specialists.
It's a good add to that. I think where some of the board members were going was, if left turns were to remain, someone could be stopped at the egress driveway waiting for traffic to clear in 35. Someone could want to leave the driving experience and make a left turn, anticipating the car that stopped at 35 is going to move, but they don't. Then you're blocking the box, and then you have cars egressing the site from the highway, and there's a conflict. So I think the board's trying to, even though there's a do not block the box striping, they're trying to prevent it even further from a conflict happening.
There's a two-car egress queue, right, on 35. You're not going to make a left-hand turn on the egress route. You can't, right?
Yeah, no, essentially, there's enough room for two vehicles queuing in this area.
You can queue two cars on an egress. You can queue two cars.
Yes.
But if you have one car ingressing, they can't make a left-hand turn into the Mavis.
No, I disagree. I think if you end up with a third car there, it might block it depending on where that third vehicle is coming from. But I think the two cars there, you can make that left turn.
So the traffic studies show that typically there would only be up to two cars in an egress queue scenario?
Yes, that's correct.
Going back to Mr. Severino, earlier he had said the driveway on the side where the Dunkin Donuts was appeared to be a little Is there a way to increase that? Because it appears to be cycling program.
We're providing a 12-foot lane around the back of there, which in my opinion is more than sufficient to handle the traffic, even the additional traffic from the learning experience that we're going to be looking at.
According to the plan, they have a critical slope on that side too. That restricts them for how far they can go over.
You said it's a 12-foot wide lane.
That's right.
Which is typical for any one of these access aisles. You know, we do 24-foot aisles, which is 2 12-foot lanes.
Bigger than the parkway lane.
Yeah, 12-foot.
How many, with that 12-foot lane and this car stacked in the drive-through, there's 4 cars stacked, will that still maintain the 12-foot lane?
Yes, that's correct. So the 12-foot lane actually wraps the entire building, including the Mavis and the retail building along the north side of the building. We have stacking for 11 vehicles in the drive-through, all the way to you hit this aisle. Based on studies we've done, your average maximum at a Dunkin Donuts is about 8 cars, 68 cars in the drive-through. So we feel that the 11 is more than sufficient. But that lane, the bypass lane, wraps that entire section as well. So there really will be enough room to be able to allow vehicles to travel around and not get a queue for the drive-through.
The rendering is looks very small. So 12 feet sounds great.
If I can just clarify, I thought the queue was 3 cars. 2.8.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the drive-through queue as opposed to the exit queue. The drive-through.
No, but I think when Mr. Senabrino was talking, you had said 2 cars would be queued.
Two car egress each site and egress.
Right, so I think it's actually 3. So I guess my question is, with the restricting cars in the learning experience to make right-hand turns, does that reduce the queue from 3 down to something, let's say 2?
It's not going to reduce the probability of the queue based on that because all the vehicles still need to exit the site. What it does is
there's a stop control at the other.
Well, what it does is push all the traffic, the vast majority of the traffic, is going to be making this right turn out.
Yeah.
So any additional queue is going to end up back on this side, not anywhere else. So they're still all coming out on the highway, but it transposes where people are waiting to make that turn.
We must all realize, you know, in Kings Highway by ShopRite, where people are exiting the north exit, it says no left turn, and everybody makes a left turn there. It's, you know, people are going to make the left turn even if we say right turn on either. On Harmony, right. That's it.
Mrs. Giroux raised an issue. She gave me a note as we're talking. It's a good question. Typically, on site plan approvals, at least we've not been putting it as a condition that Title 39 enforcement would be applicable. I don't know if it's a township ordinance or not. I'm not sure. It's a township ordinance that it's always, but Title 39 is the motor vehicle code of the state of New Jersey. So basically, if you have an accident in a parking lot, or you do something, you disobey a stop sign, or smash into somebody, can you get a reckless, careless certificate in a parking lot? If it's private property, they can't. Happens on a driveway, they can't. But it is by ordinance would be required for Title 39.
I believe so.
Any site specific, so we should
require.
Yes.
The applicant is fine.
Yeah, no, I
Measure is required.
It requires the town to pass an ordinance to enforce it. But
you're right. You have to basically what the condition would say that you're going to petition for Title 39 enforcement. Okay. You know, all these traffic movements go for naught if people don't enforce them. I mean, you probably get tickets anyway, but you know, nobody's really going to look up whether Title 39 is enforced or not. I bumped into somebody at the parking lot one time, but I asked them about that. I didn't see that.
So just a comment. So the plans have to be revised to add that no left turn.
Right turn on.
I prefer the positive right turn only.
Right turn on, yeah, I think that's not to know. Positive reinforcement, absolutely.
We have an ordinance which says the provisions of subtitle 1, title 39 of the revised statutes have been made applicable. It's in under the policing power, not in the zoning, to roads, streets, driveways, parking areas, parkways, and all other roadways are described below. So we do have that in the ordinance.
Yeah, but it's roads, streets, parkways, that's public.
No, parking areas. It says parking areas as well.
And does it list specific areas?
It does not.
No, I don't mean, I think that probably means that you have parking areas that are public. So to make Title 39, I think the traffic engineer, Mr. Bryson, and myself, my understanding of it is what you suggested. You have to petition us, you have to ask us to enforce Title 39, and the township committee would then have to adopt an ordinance that we have a vote saying Title 39 is enforced on this property. And all these traffic movements are leading towards that, and perhaps maybe that should be a standard condition going forward, but on this one here, it really begs for it.
Sure. Understood.
One other question for you. On your report, I know we had some initial conversations about a level of service increase. Has there been one based on the previous use to the proposed use?
We actually did not run the capacity analysis on the existing use as it, it's being closed. What we did was just project the traffic for the proposed use.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't see that in the report, then, that variance between previous and proposed.
That's correct. It's not in the number.
Do you have any comments on that? As what it may be? What it may be from what that variance would be?
Honestly, I think you'd have similar trip generation characteristics during PM and Saturday. Obviously, the city mail wasn't a morning joint. So the levels of service that we would find in the morning or the trip generation that we find in the morning are going to be a little higher. But I do anticipate you're going to have similar levels of service when we show in the report.
Yeah, I mean, my question wouldn't be to trip generation comparisons where there's nothing to compare, like in the morning. It would be more so total volume at peak times based on what total volume at peak times would have been for the current user. That's my question.
I think we're definitely looking at an increase in traffic. But I can't give you
Certainly over what's there now.
Yeah.
I can't give you those there.
No,
the restaurant's going to generate probably 150 to 200 trips, where we're at 300. So I mean, like you're looking at an increase, but you're looking at similar operation of that traffic.
But the restaurant is mostly a dinner crowd. After this is your place is empty. Other than pick up from the tire place here.
No, I mean, you would look, the peak would be in that 6:30, 5:30 to 6:30 in the overlap. Obviously, the restaurant's going to have probably the 7 to 8, a higher peak.
I guess my simple question is, when you compare the peak comparison for the restaurant versus the peak time for these users, is the total, there's a total increase in number of trips, correct?
At the respective peak.
At those peak comparisons.
That's correct.
So, understanding that it's the same ingress and egress, right? It's same location, same spot, is that a concern?
No, based on the analysis that we've done for the proposed use and showing that there's capacity under 35 that handle that traffic, it's not a concern. I mean, that's the ultimate responsibility, is to make sure that what's coming to the site is going to operate safely and efficiently. DOT doesn't really look for a safe driveway. They don't look for that previous use. They're only concerned with what we're proposing, which is why when we put the report together, we didn't draw that comparison.
I have a question. Looking at your proposed trip generation, I see that the Learning Center has tertiary people in on Saturday. Is it open on Saturday? No, it's not open. Okay.
No,
I see there's tertiary numbers in here, so
the Institute of Transportation Engineers projects minor traffic for it, so,
okay.
So we include that in our analysis.
Very
but
good.
learning experience is not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from this witness? From the board? Anyone from the public? Seeing none from the public. Motion to close the public portion.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing further. Madam Witness.
motion was called, is everybody eligible? Were they here last time? Right, and then Mr. Davis has the alternate. So.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept the plans for the Vinnie Equities, block 615, lot 94, with the variance included, and any conditional use permits included, and plus the specialty of the right turn only at the entrance way for exiting the school. And that's it.
Do we need to include Title 39, that would be the result?
Do we?
Well, I mean, I'm going to put that in terms. Any conditions that have been made.
Final 39 addenda. Okay.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Carroll?
Yes.
Calvin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Action?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
And Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the